Ashish Rathi joining us. He's whole-time director at HDFC Securities. Mr. Rathi, very good morning and thank you for speaking with us this morning at NDTV Profit. Let's just talk a bit about what SEBI has done. Now, one view is that people who are now habituated to derivatives trade will find a way. They will find one way or the other. Do you think that that's what's going to happen? What is the kind of impact you're seeing on volumes?
So what will happen typically, I mean, if you look at the SEBI circular which has come, you are absolutely right. I think so. What was there as a discussion paper has actually come out in the open. One thing they have removed out of 7 recommendations, 6 have come. But in terms of volumes, we will have to wait and see because it is getting staggered. So the major impacting volume items are scheduled to go live since November 20, which is probably the one of the most biggest item is this weekly expiry. Now, what is currently allowed is 5 weekly expiries. Now, what happens typically is with the new circular in place, you will have only 2 weekly expiries. So probably some kind of rationalization in terms of volume should happen because if you look at the major volume in options, particularly index options, was happening through these weekly expiries. So we expect some kind of rationalization of volumes definitely to happen because of this move of SEBI.
Extent is the question. I mean, what we are learning is you'll see 40 to 50% of volumes sort of rationalized, as you put it, because of expiries. In terms of impact for exchanges, let's start with that. One listed player, BSE. Let's see what BSE is also doing pre-open. In terms of impact for exchanges, do you think that this is a huge hit, Mr. Rathi? And for brokerages, for the discount brokers, what is the impact for the community?
So typically what will happen is now brokerages also are divided into two lots, one which have high dependency on derivatives volumes, one which have lower dependency on derivative volumes. Okay. So the one which are having higher dependency on derivatives volume and their income probably depends on derivative will be highly impacted. Probably the street estimates could be 20%, someone is saying 15%, but we'll have to actually see it. But wherever the dependency on derivatives volume or equity derivatives volume is high, probably the hit would be much higher, and probably where the derivatives where the dependency on derivative volume is less, I think so the hit will be much lesser. We will have to see how it pans out because November 20, post November 20, you will be able to feel how it works out because some regulations will come obviously after Feb 1 2025 and some are scheduled for April 1 2025 also. So brokerages definitely where dependency on derivatives volume is high will see a hit in terms of volumes, and obviously that affects your bottom line. And in terms of exchanges, what happens typically as of now, if you look at weekly expiries, so probably there are 5 weekdays, out of which in terms of weekly expiries, NSE has 3 days and BSE probably has 2 days. So obviously, if you go by that ratio, one of the exchanges might have a comparative larger impact. But overall, we'll have to see if people then pounce onto that only 2 expiries in weekly and compensate for volumes which were spread across 5 expiries. We don't know. We'll have to see it. Post November 20, most of the things will get cleared.
I want to talk specifically about the sophisticated pocket in the F&O segment. There were a lot of algo trades and a lot of systems based on weekly options expiries. And I'm not talking about the recently introduced ones. We've had Bank Nifty, which has been around for years now, more than a few years now. And besides that, we've also had a lot of these sophisticated traders who actually trade in relatively larger sums. Who will have to give up on Bank Nifty. In fact, on X, we have a very long list of influencers who suggest that it would be a pity if the Bank Nifty moves out of the weekly options expiry going in. What is your conjecture? What is your guess as to how trade could potentially change come November 20th when you, in fact, do see the new norms come into play?
See, what will happen is post November 20. So we will have in a week only 2 expiries. One obviously would be of BSE and one obviously would be of NSE. So all these algos which were concentrating on across, I mean, Bank Nifty might go out and you will have only Nifty. They will re-strategize to have Nifty. That is what they can do at best as of now, since the product itself is not available. Secondly, the monthly expiries still continue. Okay, so there is no restriction on monthly expiry. And some of the volumes, obviously, you will see it shift to monthly volumes rather than on this Bank Nifty weekly volumes. So that is what can happen. And what happens typically, see, on indexes, why there is such a large volume, I'll tell you two probable things is there. One is these indexes are very liquid. That is one reason. Second is what happens, indexes it doesn't result into physical delivery of any instrument. While in case of stock futures and options, yes, it results into physical delivery. So that question doesn't arise in index. So these are the two things which actually makes index probably more liquid to trade, and people want to trade into it.
Okay, well, we leave it at that. Thank you so much for joining us and taking us through your view